Guests have arrived.
I'd like to welcome you to the White House, sir.
Olympus is falling. When I heard the title, I thought of a great mountain that crumbles. A great empire, which is America, fallen.
Mr. President, there's been an intrusion. Let's go, move.
The idea of the White House collapsing, it just has so much resonance.
Give me the Pentagon on the line now. Go back! Olympus is falling. Olympus is falling.
This epic idea of terrorists attacking the White House and taking the president hostage.
I have your commander-in-chief.
How would the world deal with that? How would America deal with that?
The White House, the most protected building on earth, has fallen.
We want the audience to ask, what if this really happened? And me personally, I'd like them to believe that this is what would happen.
We thought, what would be the most impossible place to take over in the world? And we said, the White House. And we then visited Washington, D.C. after doing a ton of research on the White House, and then just through a lot of brainstorming came up with a plan that we thought would actually conceivably work.
When I first started reading this, I went, this is a big idea. But what really got me about this movie was that it is possible for this to happen. It is possible for the White House to be taken and for hostages to be taken.
The United States of America doesn't negotiate with terrorists.
Who said anything about negotiating?
We're going to give it our best shot in terms of reality. You know, the actors are going to always come real, I think.
It's an opportunity to live vicariously, and when you can meld all this great action with a great story and possibility of truth, then I think it just grabs us.
The world's a scary place, my man.
For me, the best thing about this movie has been working with Antoine, because he's not afraid to do something different. Antoine has an unflinching and unwavering commitment to truth.
He does gritty, he does action and realism like nobody else.
Olympus Has Fallen is a suspense action thriller that's based in authenticity, in the sense that these things are plausible. They can happen. The White House can be attacked.
Hey! Hey! Get down!
So I made this movie as a cautionary tale. I made this movie to scare some people about this situation that could happen.
Oh, hell! Back! Mr. President!
We have great advisors and consultants on the film who are working with all the actors closely.
We have a wonderful guide on the set who has actually spent time in the real rooms with the real people, and checking in with him every now and again for accuracy and believability has been enormously helpful.
I have a good friend named Joe Bannon, who was Secret Service, and another good friend of mine named Ricky Jones, who worked for the government but not Secret Service. Also, another gentleman named Daryl Connerton. Daryl Connerton, well, he worked for the government, right? I'll leave it at that. So I spent a lot of time with those guys and discussed what I could get away with in the movie and what I couldn't.
The specialists that we consulted, we asked, what would it take to take the White House? And it went down to every detail, the exact amount of men, to the machinery, the weaponry used.
The Secret Service and anybody in security, they have provisions where they would go, what if this happened? What if they got these things? What if one was on the inside? So the whole battle scene we laid out with them of how it could happen based on these elements. If they got their hands on these trucks, if they got their hands on 50 calibers, if they had a C-130 for diversion. Those are all real possibilities. They sat with me and we mapped it out. Like literally had a huge map as big as this room with trucks and toy soldiers and C-130s flying around like kids in a sandbox and discussing how they would do it. You know, 15 minutes is a real thing. That our military takes our military 15 minutes to actually get there.
It takes 15 minutes for your armed forces to reach the White House. We took it down to 13.
So we were getting some inside information that, you know, I wanted to put on the screen.
Daryl Connerton and myself designed the taking of the White House and how to use what's available there. Because in most terrorism, especially after September 11th, you have to look at what America has that terrorists can use. And, you know, the script is July 5th, so it's cleanup day. So taking trash trucks and blowing them and making them a solid bunker to infiltrate the gates of the White House was one thought in mind because of the holiday. Trash trucks and bring the guns and what the protocol is, what Secret Service does, what they don't do. Several other things we helped design with Antoine, and he took our advice from and put his touch to it, and it was really nice.
Get down!
We did a lot of research to make it authentic.
But you can't go to Washington, D.C. and shoot this movie. You just can't do it.
So Avi Lerner from Millennium said, you gotta make it in Louisiana. And I said, Louisiana for Washington, D.C.? He said, and Shreveport, Louisiana. I said, okay, well, if you let me hire specific people who've made films in Louisiana before, a guy named Derek Hill, who's a production designer, who did W for Oliver Stone. And I said, okay, let me bring Derek, and he can help create Washington and Shreveport.
Having shot W in Shreveport, I knew the challenges of getting an authentic film to look like Washington, D.C. So I ended up building almost the entire Pennsylvania Avenue from gate to gate.
And we actually built the White House. We built the water fountain. We built, the whole front facade and back pieces and the whole interior of that front lobby when they all go in.
Of course, I'd done the White House, but I'd done just the normal White House, where this is an action-packed, visual effect, thriller, attack on the White House. And I think everybody likes to challenge themselves to get it to the screen to make it look as authentic as possible. We have some technical advisors on the show, and they all come to the set and they look, and the guy says, this thing's giving me goosebumps down here. How did you make it so accurate? And I said, I'd have to kill you if I told you.
You go up to the facade of the White House, and it is an inch-by-inch exact replica. And on a stage here in Shreveport, we've created the whole first floor of the White House, including the Oval Office. I mean, these major artists have created this wonderful White House for us to tear down.
Sorry about the house, sir. It's okay. I believe it's insured.
First of all, the technology is on our side. Today, you don't need to go to Washington to shoot the White House because once you have the facade, you build everything in CGI. Because right now, of course, after what's happened in 9/11, you can't shoot next to the White House. Neither you can fly over the White House. So a lot of things has to be done digitally.
So much of this show is going to be visual effects. And so we worked very closely with visual effects to get as much of the real elements as he possibly could in the far background of visual effect if we needed to do set extensions or background of Washington, D.C.
The goal of this film is, even though there's a lot of visual effects in the film, the goal of the film is for it to be invisible, for us to believe that we actually went to the real White House and did all the things that we're doing. So we left the top of it off and the sides, and part of my job is going to be to add that. One of the things about the White House that's challenging from a technical perspective is that it's white. And it's not actually white, it's gray, but it looks white, and it's a tricky thing to match it. So there are going to be some technical challenges for us to make this look great. The other thing that people seem to forget about is the trees, because there's actually quite a few trees in this environment as well. So we've got a lot of work to do here to create the environment. But really, with anything we were doing, we would start with the practical effects, and that would be Antoine's go-to solution, would be like, let's try and photograph this. So anything that could be photographed, we tried to photograph it.
We're here in Shreveport, Louisiana, filming Olympus Has Fallen. Today we're going to blow up this bus, and in turn the bus is going to tip the cop car over. First thing we did is once we got the bus, we had to take a lot of the structure of the bus. We also built into the bus some cannons that are down below. There's one here, there's one there. After that, the little devices down on the ground that you see with holes in them are propane can poppers. They will all be ignited. Each one of them is about a 20-foot fireball. That in turn causes the police car to blow, which is another cannon inside the police car, flipping the police car over with another explosion. And the whole sequence should take no more than 1 or 2 seconds. Unfortunately, we don't have a chance to test it. I mean, we're just going off past experience.
with that explosion, what we can do is we can basically take that foundation of practical elements and add additional effects to it. And of course, we're blowing up that bus here in Shreveport on a highway, but it's supposed to be in downtown Washington, D.C. next to the White House. So we're going to be adding the entire background behind it, as well as enhancing the explosion itself. So you'll end up with a much more powerful blast when we're done.
When you see it, it seems so real the way Antoine directs it. And with the great actors that they have and great set design with Derek, you put all those things together, it is a very surreal thing to watch.
RPG! What grabbed me about this was, wow, none of these things are nonsense. These things are all possible.
It's the thrill of the action.
Go kill him.
It's a story that we've not seen before, and it kept me on the edge of my seat.
The difference with this action movie is that it's smart. There's intelligence that's intertwined in the action.
Abort! Abort!
It's about people invading our country.
We're talking about the safety of the President of the United States.
We're talking about a hell of a lot more than that, sir.